Hey, welcome to Higher Intervention, where we believe in the transformative power of our higher selves and the infinite force that guides us. I'm your host, Nacrissa J, and this is a safe place for deep and meaningful conversations about self-discovery, personal growth, spiritual enlightenment, and emotional mastery. Whether you've had a tough day or you're simply seeking strategies and encouragement to pursue a life of purpose, you're in the right place. Together, we'll explore the depths of personal strength, unlock the potential within, and shine a light on the steps to lead us toward the life we aspire to live. Hey guys, so today we are going to just hop right in and we're going to be exploring a deeply personal topic that resonates with many of us, yet it really often goes unnoticed, and that is emotional neglect. So this journey into understanding emotional neglect really happened with the conversation with my daughter over this past week. She was like, "Mom, I need to share something with you." And I'm like, "What's going on?" She's like, "I think your childhood involved a lot of emotional neglect." And I'm like, really? Could that have been possible? So she started sending me these articles on emotional neglect. She had mentioned it before, but she mentioned it again. And I was like, okay, let me check these articles out. So I, hop into my little Snapchat because this is how we talk. I don't use it for anything but to talk to my kid. And, I'm clicking on these articles and I'm reading these articles and I'm like, before I read the articles, I'm like, my parents were super loving, super supportive. They provided and nurtured me. And, I had a lot of opportunities, coming up. I did a lot of different things. I played tennis. I didn't feel like I had any type of neglect in terms of my basic needs and just having, a carefree life as a kid, when it comes to my parents. So I was like, okay. So anyway, I read these articles and I, I'm telling you, I started reading these articles and I'm like, whoa, hold up. I started seeing reflections of my past in these articles. And I'm like, okay, this is actually me. And this is actually me. So I'm just like highlighting and pointing out like, oh, yep, I did. Oh, I've been through that. Oh, yep, my parents did that. Oh, yep. And next thing you know, I'm like, whoa, I was emotionally neglected. It was very subtle, but it was very significant of the fact that I just started bawling. I couldn't stop crying. Like, I'm like, wow, because I also read the effects of it and the things that you could deal with as an adult because of those things. So imagine a child that, I had a loving, warm family engaged in a plethora of activities from gymnastics to music and rapping and art and swimming. I got the clothes I want, the toys I want. Like, it sounds really good. This was my reality. It seems great, but there was some absence there. For example, my mother, she was hardworking and she's still hardworking to this day. But with that hard work came the absence of her presence in my life because she worked afternoons. She didn't like getting up in mornings and she was just not a morning person. So she chose to work afternoons, which left me with my father and without my mother's presence. So my ideal of my mom was, cook dinner on the weekends, hang out with my dad through the week. And that silence, from her in those weekdays, it made a difference in my life. I just didn't know it at the time. I couldn't articulate that at the time, but it did. And then my father was great, read me stories, took me to dinner, especially through the week because mom wasn't cooking through the weekdays, but he was there. He was there for me. Okay. So even though my mom was absent, my dad was present, but in that presence was this ideal of achievement. He had a lot of wisdom and constantly would guide me into this achieving state where it was like, what do you want to do? What do you want to be? How can you become a contributing member of society. If you ask anybody, those are my dad's famous words. Be a contributing member to society and, achieve whatever you can achieve. Do well in school. And it was just inbred to the point that if you didn't, you was not going to get the same reaction from him. You wasn't going to get the same love, the same attention. It was going to be a little cold shoulder there if you got a bad grade. It was going to be a cold shoulder if you didn't know where you wanted to go or what you wanted to do. So all of those things, when you look back at them, in these quiet moments, the absence of the words and in the presence of that achievement, these were seeds of an emotional neglect that were sown, not intentionally, not through neglectful intention, but through the complexity of life, just unspoken pressures of expectation and absence. So emotional neglect is often, it's just a shadow moving silently through our lives, masquerading as independence and resilience. And it appears in the gaps when emotional support and understanding are needed, but are not adequately provided. It's the unspoken emotional needs left unaddressed. Okay. It's really, truly missed opportunities for deeper connection. And some of those opportunities were missed in my journey. My journey, recognizing and understanding emotional neglect, it was challenging. I was bawling like a baby, just crying like, oh my God, this is me. And that realization that achievement could be a source of conditional affection. And it allows me to realize that, my attachment to achievement stems all the way back to that childhood and the need to be approved by maybe my audience or my clients or my students or a man in my life, like that need to be approved because I've achieved so much, I've done so much. I could talk on this for a lot, but a lot of this I'll be sharing in my new book coming out, that a lot of the things that I did has a lot to do with some of that neglect that was there. And when we can really acknowledge that we've had it without villainizing the people who actually played a part in it, we can start to heal. So today's episode really was about realization and acknowledging that it's possibly that something could have been in your life. It didn't have to be what I went through. It could be, where you role reversal, where, you were emotionally supportive to your parents and now you were neglected in that area, or you had all these achievements and had all these things, but you also had overt abuse where it was verbal abuse to you and you were neglected in that way. Maybe you weren't listened to. Maybe your feelings wasn't heard. You were always told to shut up, be quiet, let the adults speak, or, things like that, where you were neglected in very subtle ways. So taking a reflection to know will help you realize why some of the things that you might still have challenges with today, whether it's self-esteem issues or overachievement issues or anything like that. So this episode is just to acknowledge, to say, maybe you have been emotionally neglected. And once you have that acknowledgement, you can start to heal from it. It influences our self-esteem, our relationships, our own emotional awareness. It can manifest as shame and anxiety or feelings of isolation. But it just gives us a chance to heal and find a better, more connected path to fulfill ourselves in life once we acknowledge that. So I hope this story of my realization helps you realize that maybe some of the things that you went through when you were growing up was the same things. Because truly, through our stories and discussions that we have, we can shed a light on these hidden aspects of our lives to empower ourselves to recognize and understand and heal from the impacts of the things that happen to us. So you're not alone on this journey. We're here to offer support, guidance, and a community where you can experience these things and feel validated and understood. So as I conclude this episode today, I encourage you to look within, embrace your story with compassion, and to join us in this ongoing conversation about emotional mastery and spiritual growth and personal development, right? We are going to go high. All right. If you feel motivated by this podcast today, invite others to hear it and share their story and find comfort in knowing that we can all heal together.
I'm so glad you took the time to go high. Visit higherintervention.com to go higher and get tools and resources for your journey, including a 14-day manifestation guide.